Audiobook Creation Exchange, also known as ACX, is one of the most visible self-publishing platforms for audiobook distribution. I've mentioned ACX and even have an unlisted playlist on how to publish an audiobook through them. But I have yet to directly address the pros and cons of Audiobook Creation Exchange. That's why I'll give you deeper insights on ACX in today's video. Let's go! Welcome to Self-Publishing with Dale, and if you want practical strategies and solutions for do-it-yourself publishing mastery, then subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to get notifications on all my latest videos. I'd love to know if you have published through ACX, and if you have, what are your thoughts on them? Also, if you haven't published through them, why not? Leave your candid thoughts in the comments. I've covered ACX ever so briefly in this channel, and for good reason. It is a viable option in self-publishing, but is it for everyone? Well, as of August 8, 2017, ACX states this on their website. We have 1,674 titles open for auditions, 49,271 producers to choose from, and 90,962 audiobooks on sale at Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. Let's get this straight. ACX has produced under 100,000 titles? But what about the millions of ebooks and paperbacks on the market today? Surely there must be some mistake. ACX has limited availability since they only offer distribution to self-publishers in the US and UK markets. This leaves many other self-publishers outside those markets with few options. I know of a few publishers outside ACX's reach who have set up stateside accounts so they are able to use their services. However, I'm not entirely sure if this is an acceptable practice or endorsed by ACX or Amazon. How exactly does ACX work anyway? You have three options when producing an audiobook on ACX. 1. Provide your own narrating. I wouldn't recommend this option if you are not a trained professional. However, if narrating your own book is an interest, ACX provides tons of resources to aid you in getting the job done. 2. Provide your own content. Let's say you already know a professional narrator and you have the job complete. This is the step you could use. 3. Hire an ACX approved narrator. This is the most popular option that breaks down into three different types. One is the 50-50 royalty split. When a narrator accepts this option, he willingly takes all the risks since he does a large amount of the work. The 50-50 split was one of my preferred options. The next option is the paid finished price per hour. As you can imagine, producing quality audio work is no simple task and requires a unique skill set. To explain it in simple terms, you pay the narrator based on the time of the complete audio file. You may experience sticker shock when you first hear a narrator's finished price per hour. However, I assure you, if you only knew how much time it takes to complete a project, then you'd understand it's not as sweet a deal as you'd think. The last option in hiring an ACX approved narrator is a combination of both the 50-50 royalty split and a finished price per hour or stipend of sorts. Last thing to note about audiobooks on ACX. Here's one of my favorite parts about ACX, the bounty program. If someone purchases your audiobook and signs up for an Audible membership, you get a $50 bonus known as a bounty. Not only do you get the royalty for your audiobooks, but you get a kickback for enticing a reader to the Audible membership program. Not bad. I've known a fair amount of self-publishers who've made an insane living off the bounty program alone. Now that you have a brief overview of ACX, let's talk about the pros and cons. The pros of ACX include a simple upload and publish interface that even the least tech-savvy people can figure out. Some of the best narrators on the market offering to take on the risk of producing your project in exchange for 50% of all your royalties. And the killer ACX bounty program. The cons of ACX include the meager 40% royalty. Keep in mind, if you do a royalty split with a narrator, then you only get 20% of all purchases and bounties on a title. And if you don't agree to exclusivity through ACX, then your total royalty rate drops to a mere 25%. Cut that in half and you are merely fighting for scraps with your narrator split. The lack of availability to markets outside the US and UK. Hey, I'm all for equal treatment to all regions, so I'm not entirely sure why other markets are excluded. In my opinion, ACX is a good option for anyone in the US or UK. I highly recommend looking into this option, but before you launch your entire catalog on ACX, you may want to weigh out other options. In fact, Drafted Digital recently announced a newfound partnership in the audiobook distribution platform of Findaway Voices. Check out my thoughts on it in a previous post. That's all the time we have for today, and remember, if you liked what I shared with you, then share it with someone you know who will enjoy it too. Till later, this has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I'll see you guys soon.